All right, 8th graders, we're going to go through a couple of practice problems, and we've been talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines have what in common?
They have the same slope.
The same slope, but different what?
Y-intercepts.
Different y-intercepts, yep. Perpendicular lines have different what? Perpendicular lines have,
Negative reciprocal.
yeah, the slopes are negative reciprocals. How do you know if two numbers are negative reciprocals?
If they equal -1 when multiplied.
Right, yep. So if you multiply them and you get -1, you know that they are negative reciprocals. Okay? So if the first slope that you have, if you're finding a perpendicular slope, if the first slope is negative, then the second slope has to be positive. If it's a fraction, you have to flip it. Okay? Now, when you are doing these problems, you always are working with the slope. So, if you have an equation, and for example it's in standard form, what's the first thing you need to do? Take number 28. 3x plus 5y equals 7. Do you have the slope yet?
No.
No, so the first thing you have to do, when you're working with these equations, the first thing you should do is find the slope. And how do you find the slope?
Turn the problem into the formula y equals mx plus.
Yep, we got to get this into y equals mx plus b. Okay? Because then we have the slope, we have the y-intercept, and we can work with that with those two numbers. Okay? So, how do you get this into y equals mx plus b?
Yeah, -3x both sides.
Alright, we have to solve this for y. Yep. So we have to add -3x to both sides. Alright, copy this down. I know you didn't get this one.
It's y equals 7 plus 3x.
So 5y equals -3x plus 7. Then divide everything by 5. So y equals -3/5 x plus 1 2/5, or 1.4, or 7/5. But usually, when you're finding b, you're probably going to want the decimal form or at least the whole number form so that it's easier to count. Okay? So now what? It says we have to write an equation that is perpendicular to the given equation. That goes through this point, -1, 2. So now we have to work with this point, -1, 2. Okay? We have this point, and we have what? What did we just find?
The slope.
The slope. The slope is -3/5. Now, are we writing an equation for a parallel line or a perpendicular line?
Perpendicular.
Perpendicular. So what slope do we need to use?
The negative reciprocal. Or the
Yep. Which would be
5 over
5/3.
3.
And is that positive or negative? Positive, 5/3. Okay? We have the slope. We have the point that we have to go through. So there's a formula for the point and the slope. What's that formula?
Y minus y1.
Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? Now what?
And then you just input the numbers and stuff.
Then just insert the numbers we need. Yep.
Y minus 2.
So we have to use y, and then the y coordinate is the y1. Y minus 2 equals
5 over 3.
5 over 3 x, and then the x coordinate
Should be
minus
minus
negative 1. Yep. Then we simplify it. So y minus 2 equals 5/3 times x and times 1. Right?
Yeah, and then you just add 2 back and 2.
Add 2, but how do we add 5/3 plus 2?
So that would be 2, wait, 2 and 5/3. Y equals
2 and 5/3. We want to change 5/3 to
1 and 1/3.
1 and
2/3, I mean.
2/3 plus 2.
3 and 2/3.
So it's 3 and 2/3, yeah.
Oh, really?
5/3 x plus 3 and 2/3. Okay? Perpendicular because it is the negative reciprocal of this equation. So we have this equation and this equation. Okay?
It's just like,
Any questions on these types of problems? You have to use the point slope, but first solve it for y to get the slope. Okay? Now, in the next section it says find the equation for each line. So, how are these two equations going to be related to each other?
no, they're on the, wait, no,
They're on the same
They're on the same-
y-axis.
They're on the same y-axis,
no. No, really?
but how else can you describe these?
They have the same y intercept.
What is this?
90-degree angle.
Yeah, but yep, they cross at a 90-degree angle, so how do you describe them?
Perpendicular.
They're perpendicular. That means their slopes are negative reciprocals. They're not the same, they're negative reciprocals. Okay? Now, we can find the slope of each one. Yeah, we'll need the slope for each one. So let's find the slope of the black line first.
Oh, just,
Which problem is this? 42.
yes.
2 over 5.
The black line?
Yeah, it's 2 over 5. It is 2 over 5.
2 over 5? So it
That's
goes,
what I counted.
but it goes from 1 to 5 to 3. Yep. Okay, so it's 2
I counted down 2 over
42.
5.
There's no left line.
down 2 and left
Yeah,
5.
this is supposed to be the good line.
Okay.
Because I made it red quick off, so.
Then the blue line must be
Sam, make
What?
it business. Must be a negative reciprocal, so it's negative 5
-5 over 2. Okay. So now that we have the slope for each one, now we have to write an equation using the one of the points and the slope. Okay? Just like we did before. Once you have the slope, now use a point and the slope. Okay? So, start writing. You didn't do this one for homework, right? Oh, did you did? You did?
Well, I
You're
did it.
supposed to.
I gotta do it.
Okay,
I did it.
okay, good.
Do we do
Brady?
like the- Do we do like
You
the
got
point
it?
slope form thing? Like
Yep, you have to use point slope again.
with both?
Yep. And then simplify it.
What?
Once you have the point slope form, then you have to simplify
Do
it.
we just use either one?
Well, you need this slope with one of these points.
Okay.
You can use either point.
Alright.
And yeah, this one probably is easier, -1, 1. Alright? So for this one, y minus 1 equals 2/5 x minus -1. And
Cross this out.
this one's y minus 4 equals -5/2 times x minus 1. You guys, the slope is wrong.
What?
Trusted you. Let's use the,
What?
look, y, if we subtract the y's, you get 3 minus 1, right?
Yeah.
If you subtract the x's, 5 minus -1 is 6.
You people. But you were deceived.
So that's 2/6, which is
1/3.
1/3. And -3.
I did it the way
Mr.
Will
Monsky.
told me to.
I did not tell you anything.
Yeah, you did. You did
Monsky.
technically.
You can count.
Yeah, but then Will did it a different way yesterday, so then I did it that
But
way.
this-
So
I
technically
never
he
did
got
this
it wrong
problem.
for me.
Okay.
I never did this problem.
You suck.
Yeah, Will.
Hey,
You swallow.
be
You
nice.
swallow too.
What?
Mr. Monsky.
So this is -3.
Seriously. Swallow. Ah.
And this is 1/3.
I don't know how that works, but.
So then your equations. Well,
Can I use the bathroom?
no. So your equations should be y equals 1/3 x plus 4/3. This one. And the second one should be y equals -3x plus 7. You add, you get +3 and then add 4, you get 7. Okay? Alright, those are some sample problems.
And other stuff.